All right, yo, welcome back. It's still TVC Breakfast, moving towards the last leg of the show this beautiful Friday, talking about alignments of political parties and realignments. Well, in the early hours of Thursday, Dr. Obieze Kwesili, former presidential candidate of the Allied Congress Party of Nigeria, broke the news of her withdrawal from the presidential race on her Twitter handle. All of this happening just 21 days to the presidential election.
All right. Would more candidates step down to form a stronger coalition in the coming days? TVC Breakfast went on a wide-opening sampling quest on this issue. We spoke to Nigerians in Port Harcourt and in Abuja. Here are their views.
This is the first time I'm hearing about someone coming up in the election, even doing presidential debate and pulling out. To me, she has just sold out her integrity. Because someone like me who is highly learned, I would say that maybe she have been paid to drop from the race. Because if it's about being threatened, I don't see her as a fearful woman.
I think it's a little too late. She has made a lot of people that have believed in her cause. She has left them stranded. If she knew she wouldn't go this far, she would have done this much long ago. And from what she said in the report I read, she started thinking of this since 2018 when they had a platform of harmonizing on a particular candidate to choose. But she never stepped aside. She went all this hog. Well, it's her decision, but for me, it's a little too late. A little too late.
The moment that she knows that she will not be able to get any votes, she doesn't even have to go into the race from the beginning. She doesn't have to waste her time and energy and tell us that she has one or two things to offer the country, and at the end of the day, few weeks to the election, she's withdrawing on aspiration. To me, she's not serious.
By now, ballot paper might have been printed. You know, there's electoral guideline for presidential and all the elections. Once your party submitted your name, the time for substitution closes, you can't. There's nothing INEC can do. Obviously, is telling Nigeria that she's withdrawing now. It's just a wasted effort.
It doesn't work that way in a democratic settings. Looking at it at the way it should be, Madam shouldn't have withdrawn at this critical time. So this clearly shows that these politicians are actually negotiating our future, the future of our unborn children. They are negotiating. Because if they are not negotiating, they can't be playing us like ball like that.
It's stated in the Electoral Act that 45 days notice must be given to INEC before a candidate can withdraw from any of the race, as a matter of fact. And I believe she has not complied with the provision of the Electoral Act. And by virtue of that, she has to an extent, no basis for saying she's withdrawing. Because whether I like it or not, I'm sure INEC must have made arrangement in terms of printing of ballot papers and the rest of them. So what now happened to that? That is more like an additional cost to INEC.
Well,
wow.
This is not necessarily about the pulling out of Obieze Kwesili from the race. It's the alignment. It's a general discussion we're trying to have here.
Yeah,
as to
the point
what
is,
this means, for for our democracy and for politicians pulling out when it's so close to the election, and all that.
Yeah, but if you see critically, when you pull out of a race, is a strategy towards align. If you listen to her statement, I'm pulling out, and certainly I'm ready to align myself with and all of that towards forming another formidable force against the. So you see, it's also part of a realignment. But however, we have joining us in the studio Professor Anthony Killer. He's a Jean Monnet, a professor of strategy and development. He's also the director of studies at the Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies here in Lagos. Professor Killer, it's nice to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Yeah.
I know you've been following this development over the past few days when this news broke.
Yes.
And when it comes, if you listen to Nigerians, that what they say, everyone seems to be taking a swipe at Dr. Obieze Kwesili one way or the other. But we've spoken to other analysts who have said that this is the beauty of our democracy that we are coming to terms with. What is your assessment?
Well, I'm glad analysts are saying that, because it shows they understand a bit more than the so-called common man on the road. I think there's a flaw in information there, because for starters, she's not the first president to pull out. Patutomi pulled out in 2011, at some point. And we don't need to interpret her. We don't need to translate her. She was very clear. She said, I'm pulling out to walk towards an alliance of forces so that we can build a formidable coalition, a third force, as it were, against the two major parties. And it must be said that she didn't just wake up to do it. A lot of people, including yours sincerely, her, wrote to her to say, look, this thing you're doing, it doesn't make sense. If you watch the debate, which you were kind enough to show us on your TV station, by the way, your TV station was one of the clearest on the day of the debate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And which we were watching there, it was clear to us that these three people, Mogulu, Obikwezele, and the other chap there, they were more or less on the same side. So in a way, they were having an in-house debate. And together, on paper, they're not worth half of the other side yet. Especially if they're divided, they haven't worked on a quarter of it. So that it would make sense if they're saying that we're a fresh breed, we want to do things differently, for all of them to come together to make something tangible.
Well, they did say that much during the debate. I mean, when they were asked the question as to what their, response or reaction was to the fact that the two major contenders did not show.
Yes.
And their response was, it's simple, because they don't have a message.
Today.
They don't have
and you say
anything
we are
to
the
tell
future. They
that
said,
they are the future.
Yeah, the future.
Of,
so it makes sense.
But then again, talking
Yes.
about the future, and
Yes.
as it concerns a person like Obieze Kwesili,
Yes.
one of the top female contenders in this race,
Yes.
how do you think this really would come to her supporters, people who have come to believe in her, or a similar pullout, if at all?
Well, I think
for people who believe in you so much and they line up
yes.
behind you, what does it mean for them?
Well, I think she's doing us a favor. And I think to appreciate that favor, she needs to explain further, and other people need to explain, that one of the joys of democracy, of a modern state, is that it's not personal. It's about ideas. The candidate in a good democracy, in a modern state, in a state of free people, not followers or slaves or supporters, in a state of free citizens, of men and women of goodwill, of free will and goodwill, the candidate, the leader, is an embodiment of the ideas. It is a arrowhead. It's a representative of shared values. It is not because one person has one innate quality of value and all of us follow suit. I've heard some people make the argument. And unfortunately, the country Nigeria, Nigerians today, are turning sort of in a very shallow, flawed, cynical way following politics. People are becoming more followers and less of citizens. It doesn't matter if one person pull out, because if we build the whole force around one person for any kind of quality that one person has, what if he falls sick or dies? Does that mean the whole thing will break? So it is better, and hence the society of citizens, the societies of men and women of free will and goodwill, come together, agree. That is why you have manifestos. That is why you have agendas. That is why you have meetings to say, these are the values, these are the policies we agree on, and you, that you're better spoken, or you're better believed, or you look better,
Or better placed.
or you have more time, go and represent those ideas. And then you go there on our behalf, and you're accountable to all of us. That is what should be in the ideal world.
Yeah,
now,
but that is in a situation where the party is actually the driving force.
Yes.
But with the present experience
Yes.
right now,
Yes.
across board,
Yes.
it seems that it is really all about the individual and not necessarily what the party is bringing to bear. Nobody really knows much about the manifestos of any party that you want to mention.
Well,
Not at least.
Well, you see, again, this is the thing. Technically, we could know about the manifesto if we wanted to.
If we wanted to.
Okay.
And this is where I differ from a lot of people. When I hear people talking about the right to vote, I have never subscribed to the notion of the right to vote. I've always called voting a duty. And for you to absolve that duty, I believe that you have to absolve some other duties. You have to take the responsibility of understanding the process and then doing a bit of due diligence. Now, can all the 84 million registered voters do the due diligence? I don't think so. But I think if every household has one person that can do due diligence for the others, And because you're privileged enough to be able to do due diligence, the responsibility on you watching me today, and this program is the kind of program that those people watch, the responsibility behoves on somebody like you watching today to do your due diligence and inform your own mini circle. It doesn't need to be a big job. You don't need to be a politician. You just need somebody who has the privilege, the time, and the ability to read the newspaper once in a while to say, okay, this is what we need in this family or in this location, and therefore you let the news cascade.
All right, what do you make of, because Dr. Obieze-Kwesili, we're going back to her again, she said she had carried out wide consultation, met with a lot of people and so on.
I can testify to that.
All right, now, but what do you make of a situation where it seems her and her political party are not on the same page when it comes to the issue of alignment and realignment that she mentioned? The political parties seem to be in support of the APC on one hand, the candidacy of the APC.
I think we have a bit of a problem there. Yes, I say, and that is what you alluded. Yeah, there's a bit of problem there. You say, is this idea of people not seeing themselves as shareholders, stakeholders on a project, rather than being the prima donna or Mr. Superman on one side or the other? It's a flaw in our democracy, and we should be very careful, because you see, democracy is made of ideas, is made of process, is made of steps that needs to be taken, and those processes, no matter how cumbersome, we need to always respect them, because the temptation to take shortcuts in democracy is always there. And I can assure you, I have no doubt in my mind, that each time we take a shortcut in democracy, the very likely destination is either going to be anarchy or dictatorship. So I think Obieze-Kwesili, who's known to be Madam Due Process, I think she owes Nigeria a good explanation of what has happened between her and the party. And it should not happen that way, because a candidate should sit with peers and say, this is what we're going to do as a party. And if they disagree, which can happen, is either you vote and you conform to majority, and if you want, you take your minority report and move on with it, or you conform. But there must be a discussion, and such discussion should be documented.
And over time, before now, whether it's in the case of PDP or the APC or any other political party, you even have the SDP having the same challenge right now, where the narrative has been, these are just, strange bedfellows coming together with not necessarily a common ideology, but because of convenience, you might want to say marriage of convenience, they're coming together. But when push comes to shove, when...
Then they break up or something like that.
They break up.
It goes back. Sorry.
Go ahead.
It goes back to that thing. Of all arts and crafts that man has created, politics is one of the saddest. Next to politics is the art of war. And politics itself, it's another art of war that is done in a more civil and perhaps bloodless way. Not in the battlefield. The battlefield is on the rallies, on the stage. And people need to understand that the difference between politicians and citizens is that citizens want road, politicians want power. Citizens want school, politicians want fame. Their first interest is to get to office, no matter who they are. And citizens need to, and I keep saying that, citizens need to get to that point. To the point of alliance, I'm happy to announce that there is a group of us working very arduously to get together these third forge, new breed politicians together. So there's going to be a meeting.
But the transactional attitude seems to get in the way, which is the reading that a lot of Nigerians have when it comes
to reading political scene. That is true and unfortunate. You see, this is I learned that thing in your studio, weaponization of poverty. This is part of the poverty we have: poverty, material, spiritual, intellectual, and moral poverty that has pushed us to a situation in our life. We're now a generation, a transactional generation that interprets everything through money. Everything is saying who's paying who. And, there's a depth of ideas, there's a shallowness of principle. And it's a shame, because it shouldn't be that way. If there's one place where people should be free, it should be in a democratic field. Because you don't have to be a genius. You see, people forget that. You don't have to be very informed, educated to be a politician. It's just a matter of numbers. politics, people need to remember, it's overrated. You know, people win because they like them. You have a Facebook page. Who is the most popular Facebook page or Twitter story or anything people can like? It is something eccentric. Is it not something articulate or fantastic? How many people know Nobel Prize winners? How many people know inventors or great writers?
Exactly.
We know eccentric things. And we should, until we realize that being a top politician doesn't mean you are the greatest person in that country.
Absolutely.
So we don't all need to go that way. Because we're all going that way, that is why we think of money when it comes to it.
All right, Professor Killer, let's put you on hold. The statement's already coming from Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili of the ACPN, of course, presidential candidate who has just pulled out. Of course, she abandoned the presidential race on Thursday and has replied the chairman of her former party, Allied Congress of Nigeria, ACPN, over accusation against her. Obi Ezekwesili is attending Albert Einstein's Genius 100 Visionaries meeting in Cabo, Mexico, described ACPN's chairman Abdul Ganiyu Galadima's accusation as all lies.
Yeah. She said there was no truth in the allegation that she diverted campaign funds. Let me paraphrase her here. As for the defamatory statements made against my person by the ACPN leadership in their malicious statement, I want Nigerians to know that there is no iota of truth in any of them. Everything ACPN wrote or said of the campaign donations is fabricated and outright lies. Our campaign was conducted with the highest level of transparency and accountability with impeccable evidence. Where Ezekwesili promised to give full response at a press conference on her return.
Yes, indeed. And of course, she did say that Nigeria and Nigerians deserve a new order of ethical, competent and capable leadership. According to her, she had earlier assumed the ACPN was aligned with her to offer that, ethical and competent leadership until it proved otherwise. The values and vision divergence with the party was a key factor that triggered my withdrawal from the presidential race on their ticket, prompting me to dissociate. Quite a lengthy
write-up from her.
We could spend all morning talking about.
When you hear of because in this her statement responding to the chairman of the ACPN was saying that, well, give us back all the donations we've made to you and all of that.
I think it's a pity. It's a very pedestrian way of handling national affairs. And if we're talking about the new order, I think at this point, because of her personality and because of the popularity and position she's held in the last 40 days or so, I think it behoves on the candidate, the former candidate now, Obiageli, to explain very well to Nigerians what really happened, what led her to that decision, and what happened between her party and herself, very clearly. And talking of a new order, I think she also, unlike other people, when people just call others liars and walk away, I think she needs to go to court. I think she needs to find a very public and official way to show that somebody's lying. You know, you can't call somebody a liar on national space and just walk away as if nothing happened. You know, those are the kind of things that does not allow us to build institutions. People need to realize that there's a consequence, that when you go to public to say something, it must be true. And if it's not true, there should be a penalty for it.
Especially when you have pedigree and you believe that you have a name that you have protected.
Well, absolutely. Everybody
that you
should
have
have
built
a name.
over the years
a period
and
of time.
over time.
You have to clear your name.
Yes.
Now, seeing it from the other perspective, she is the female candidate that is the only female candidate that is at the forefront, not the only in the whole race, as the case may be, but the most prominent female candidate. When it comes to the perception where Nigerians are saying, or even the world is coming to give some level of push to women to get involved in the space, what do you think this is going to, how is this going to impact on that
I am
notion?
not sure I'm the right person to answer that question. I don't know many people in the world that are more feminist than me, including women. I'm very feminist. But then, that said, I do not buy the idea of a female candidate. I do not buy gender-based, ethnic-based, any kind of categorization of candidates. You know, I buy
Why is that?
quality.
You think it smacks of just sitting on necessary
Yeah, I think there's
ground,
something
or what?
patronizing and something. I don't like zoning. I don't like allocation. I always want the best to emerge. And if you look at the world today, Margaret Thatcher, Theresa May, Merkel in Germany. You know, there are women doing very well. In most cases, I would trust a woman more to be a CEO than a man, you know, because they're more organized. I don't like it. I think it's not good for somebody of the quality of Obikwenzili to be seen as a female candidate. I mean, you know.
All right, you know what? Let's continue with some of the statements she made in her response there to the party's adoption of the candidacy or candidature of the ruling APC. The party's decision to immediately today endorse the candidate of APC, that was of course yesterday, which was announced by my erstwhile VP candidate, who is also the chairman of the ACPN, was their classic entrepreneurship in full display for Nigerians to see. It is instructive, according to her.
Yes, and they said the party leadership's transactional approach to politics began to manifest in their attitude following after the convention that adopted me as the presidential candidate. All who know me can attest that I detest transactional mindset, and I will have none of such, and therefore extremely delighted to part ways after a tumultuous 3 months of hoping that the ACPN leadership would elevate to the new values of disruptive politics that one had desired for and preach within the party. All right.
And of course, according to her, only those who desperately wish to believe falsehoods would lend any credence to such puerile accusations by the leadership of the ACPN. Only those who pretend ignorance of my legendary and uncompromising passion for accountability would give heed to such baseless statements. Of course, Obiaze Kwesili is known as Madam Due Process.
Due Process, like you mentioned earlier on.
Of course, one of the founders of Amnesty International, Transparency International. So she has.
The more reason why she should go to court. I think three things. I think, obviously speaking, people might like it, might not like it. I think the party and the people of the party have a legitimate right to endorse President Buhari if that is where their mind, their convenience, and the vision go. But they have a duty to explain why and the process. I think Obikwenzili has the right to disagree with them. But as Madam Due Process, she should have told us, the world, that these people are transactional when it happened. You see, there's this idea, and she should know that, and you know, I've had cause to say this since people like her, that you cannot believe in one thing and because of circumstances practice something else. If politics is not doable, they don't go. Because the new world, based on transparency and efficiency, is not where you keep secrets. The old politicians and the old political bloc that some of us are criticizing, they're based on a cult-like model.
Now, with these events, do you have confidence that that new order, you know, can actually happen? Can it really happen with this situation now, where number one, a lot of people believe that politics is dirty as far as this part of the you know the world is concerned.
All over the world.
And when you have people who believe that they are clean. And, you know, people continue to ask them, why aren't you involved in politics? What does this signal really for them?
Well, it signals that it is not enough to be clean. You also have to be competent. You know, my little boy is very clean.
But is he competent?
But is he competent? You see, that's the point. The good people do not have to be just good. They also have to be competent to go there. Because the things that happen in politics, and this is the beauty, you don't invent hot water. We all know what hot water is. The things that happen, you can actually foresee. So, Mr. Goodman wants to go to politics. What are the likely things to happen? People will want money from him. They will try to rig him. He will have to bribe. You can know these things and decide from the onset, these are the possible variables and these are the possible solutions. I think our challenge is more of competence rather than saying we are the good people.
All right, we have just a few weeks to the election, and we're going to, there's permutation all over the place, the alignment, realignment. Now, the presidential candidate of the ANN, Fela Durotoye, has said, well, I'm ready also to give up my presidential candidacy. If we sit down and align and anyone feels that there's going to be a meeting, and then if at the end of the meeting, any of them is chosen, certainly I'm going to give up my presidential. So what do you see? What scenarios do you see can play out when it comes to the permutation going forward?
It's a matter of people sitting around the table. There's going to be a meeting in Lagos next week. I'm going to be chairing it. And all these candidates are going to come together. And we're going to say to them, look, this is where you are today. This is where you can be. This is what you're going for. Do you think it's better for you guys to come together and some of the go, or you want to go solo? That's the idea. You just have discussions and you go through it and say, what are the options? What is your view? Are you going there just to put lipstick on your face and be known?
But this meeting was held some time ago.
This round table, is it not too, coming too late to the party?
Why?
You would think that it's a discussion that really should have happened long before now.
Well,
Even before
the earlier the better, but it's
presidential
never
debate.
too late. The earlier the better, yes,
Okay.
but it's never too late. Because it's not that anything's going to happen. People are just making a fuss out of nothing. Even if it's 2 days before elections, nothing is going to happen. It's not because they've printed ballot paper. So what?
All right, but this meeting had held sometime. There was a meeting to try to realign at the time, and they couldn't agree.
Well, all of them couldn't agree. Some of them agreed. There were more candidates before. Some of them stepped down and backed one. So what? There's a few left. If you go from 20 and you have 5 left, hey,
it's progress.
A step is taken.
Okay.
All right, Professor Anthony Killer, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you.